Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Life I'm Gonna podcast. Just going to run through a couple of things today. We're going to talk about that preseason game against Real Betis. We're going to talk about Vini Jr. re-signing or renewing his contract with Real Madrid. We're going to talk about what's next in terms of transfers, prospectively, in the defensive third because of injury concerns regarding depth, long-standing regarding depth and regarding Urian Timber, regarding Ben White, regarding um, due to the fact that William Saliba will be out for until November, December with a back issue. How do we address that? You know, so we're going to go into the whole thing. We're going to talk about possible replacements that are in the squad, as well as prospective replacements on the market. Um, all right, guys. So first of all, I hope you guys can hear me well because there's somebody cutting the grass. So hopefully it doesn't disturb the vlog too much. But anyways, guys, so all right. So let's talk about the preseason friendly. First of all, I believe it was Betis' fifth or seventh preseason game. So they're well into their preseason. I believe La Liga starts before the Premier League kicks off. So their preparation has been long on the way. I don't think that many Betis players play for international teams. So, they were able to, as soon as the La Liga season ended, go on vacation, come back early, start preparation. So they have that benefit. And I believe Girona also was, in a similar position to Betis, where the league ended. They were able to go on vacation immediately and come back early. So, with that being said, the fact that we're able to get a result against Girona or Girona, or however you pronounce it, is tremendous because that was our first on the book preseason friendly. And then Betis was always going to be a more difficult fixture. They have a stronger squad. I believe they came 15th in La Liga last season. And they got really, really, really far in the Europa League, I believe, in the Europa League, not the Conference League, in the Europa League. And so it's a more of a formidable opponent, right? So the fact that they were so far in their preparation and the fact that that was only our second game in on the books, that it was always going to be difficult. Couple that with the fact that we're missing key players, because a lot of our players went off for international duties with the World Cup with their respective teams. So we're talking about the likes of Eze, Saka, Madueke, Rice, Saliba, Odegaard. We're talking about players like players that are injured. But anyway, let's talk about players that would have been playing in arenas, Zubimendi, Raya. Um, Actually, since I just mentioned Raya, let, let's go into that goalkeeping situation. So I think that the most disappointing part of that friendly was the goalkeeping performance. I feel like Kepa, he has to go, guys. Like I just don't see a world where it makes sense to keep Kepa. I think he's just, I guess, there must be, there's a world where we can have the argument about him being the best penalty keeper. But how many times you got to penalties, in terms of penalty shootout, or how many times we would concede penalties within games for it to matter that much. But apart from that, his distribution is poor. Him just on a personal level, him managing himself throughout the game is poor. Ball to foot is poor. He oftentimes look rushed. He doesn't command his box well, and he just seems to bring a lot of chaos to the back line, and especially with the fact that we're going to be without key members of our defense from the title winning season last season, the season before, that we don't really want to possibly, because I don't know how ready Raya is going to be after coming back late, to possibly go into the season with a guy who, with a already weak in defense, to have a guy who is all over the place. So, and with the little that I've seen of Ian Leslie, I would say, but I'm 100% more comfortable with him in goal, based off of the little evidence that I've seen, and that is not very good because I feel like Ian Meslier didn't even have a club last season. I don't think he played any club football last season, so that is very, very, very concerning. And if I had the final say, then I would keep Tommy Setford. I would get rid of Kepa, and I would just have um David Raya, Meslier, and Setford because I just don't see the point of keeping Kepa. He won the Premier League with us. He's old, old in goalkeeping terms, but he's of that age where you're not going to really improve upon him. Who he is who he's going to be for the rest of his career for the most part. And I think, maybe even for his career, it might be better to go elsewhere. Um, yes. And apart from that, we missed a bunch of players. We had a bunch of players still on vacation. We have a bunch of players who, played a big part role who would have been short starters, like Sir Gabriel, Big Gabby, Martinelli. And so, they were only able to play about 20 minutes. So, they were well positioned to win this game, guys. I don't think, it should be that any Arsenal fan should be very too disappointed apart from with the Kepa situation that we should be too disappointed with the performance. A lot of those players who played are youngsters. It was good that they were able to get the opportunity to play. To have that exposure, any amount of exposure to first team football is always good for youngsters for their development. So from that point of view, it was good. Um, the way we conceded goals though was it's just a concerning because we're in preseason and again this is the second game in. But we have to make sure that we get rid of some of those cobwebs before the season start because we can't go into the season. And I don't think we will. I think the deeper we go into preseason the more the focus will sharpen and the better we will be in terms of management, game management. Um, yeah, so I think that game was not going to play out that way, and it's fine. All right, guys. So let's talk about the Vini Jr. situation. So I did a video prior to this. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. Um, Say who needs who more? Vini Jr. needs Arsenal more, or does Arsenal need Vini Jr. more? And I guess there's a case to be had that Vinny based on what he wants would have needed Arsenal more. Um, but Real Madrid up their offer, so I guess that kind of balanced that out. Um, but Arsenal needs a player like Vinny Jr., especially on the left hand side, especially after getting rid of Trossard. I know that we still have Martinelli and we signed Christos Solis, but I feel like we always, for at least the last 5 years or so, or maybe even longer than that, that we have lacked a left winger that was all action, game changing, um, something to match the right hand side, which is the side that Saka plays on, you know. And so we became, very right sided dominant, and as a consequence, we became very predictable. So we needed a player like that. However, it fills me with pride to say that we saw opportunity for a very, very, very elite, probably top five in the world, player in the world, not just in his position, but generally speaking. And we got the package together and we went to him, and to the point where he was actually considering it because according to David Ornstein, um, he really, 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 really would have considered or maybe even definitely have joined Arsenal if Real Madrid never upped their offer. Um, so it fills me with pride to know that we've gotten to the level based on where we're coming from 5 seasons ago, 6 seasons ago, and even before that, that we're at this point now where this is the market that we're shopping in. These are the type of players that we want in our team that we're aiming to get. It's a tremendous feeling, but it is what it is, guys. He signed. As to how it will work out for him, I don't know. Maybe he will live to regret it. Um, you know, Marina wants to play Kylian Mbappe on the left wing. They just signed Yan Diomande from RB Leipzig. And so that those are two well capable, well competent, you know, top level footballers um, in that position. I don't know how it will work out for him. Um, and if indeed he doesn't get the game time that he thinks you should get, which for a player like him is starting every game. That's these players that is what is expected, right? Then he's going to be very disillusioned, and all of a sudden, all the money in the world can't solve that problem. You have your pocket's full, but you're not playing. So how do you retain that level of eliteness and have that global recognition and stature if you're not playing? Playing games was what got you that. So if he lives to regret it, it might be just another Dusan Vlahovic, not to compare the two because they're far apart in terms of quality, but players that choose the wrong project, oftentimes, it's sad how it usually turns out. Anyways, guys, so moving on. So prospectively, who do we buy, guys? So I already spoke about the fact that we have defensive issues. We've been linked with the likes of Eric Kanza, um, and Ivan Fresneda. Eric Kanza more. Aston Villa has a lot of Champions League experience, has a lot of Premier League experience, has been competing with Aston Villa at the top of the table, top four, top five, top six, you know. And so, this is if you buy a footballer, you want to know that they have that that experience of a running, that experience of you don't want them to be overwhelmed by a circumstance or a situation. You want them to be comfortable in it. And he has that experience and level of comfort in playing at a high level for enough time and enough minutes for him to come in and to do well. There's a lot of English players in the team, so I'm sure the acclimation wouldn't be difficult. Um, and it's the English Premier League. I mean, this guy is English after all, right? So it's not like he's changing leagues. So it would be ideal. He's tall. Added aerial presence, especially because we're going to be missing a guy like William Saliba. Is good ball, to playing off from the back. That is something that Saliba is good at. So at least we're replacing like for like from that point of view. So I think if we were to really bring a defender in, and I know he's 28, I believe 27, 28. But this is peak for defenders in terms of their maturity, in terms of their thinking, level-headedness, and their ability to manage themselves well in games. And you need that. You don't want to be buying a young bud right now. Already have young buds. We have Christian Mosquera, Marley Solomon. So we don't need to add another one of those. If that's the case, then we'll just keep what we have because they are, especially Christian Mosquera, who has a lot of experience playing for Valencia and winning the league last season and playing enough minutes that in that case we might as well keep him. But I think Kanza would be the more sensible option in terms of a purchase. Aston Villa are a very delusional club, so we'll have to see how much money they're looking for. But I feel like we'll get go in there and get a decent price. Um, so moving on from that, let's talk about Bruno Guimaraes. Apparently, he's supposed to be unveiled today. Let's check. He might even be unveiled as I'm doing this. So let's check and see. All right. So according to AFTV, Julian Alvarez, I don't know how real that is, but Julian Alvarez is now back on the top of our wish list as a consequence of missing out on Vinicius Jr. Let's see. Okay, so we haven't presented him yet, Bruno Guimaraes yet on the Arsenal website. So we're still waiting for that. But oh my gosh, midfield amazing. We're spoiled for options. So the Mendy, Rice, Bruno Guimaraes, Eze, Odegaard, Marino. I mean, Miles Lewis Skelly. I mean, just an abundance of riches in the midfield, guys. And it's so funny because I think years ago we'll all agree that that was a position after Patrick Vieira left in 2005 that it just never seemed to have been, been addressed. I mean, we had players that could have filled that position, but they ended up laden with injuries, which is very unfortunate. Abu Dhabi. We had moments where we had Thomas Partey late on, Granit Xhaka, but we never really had, Granit Xhaka is more of a eight. So we never really had that player. I would even argue that Abu Dhabi is more of a eight too. So we never really had that six, and now we have many. And it's such just a great feeling that we have many eights. And we have many of every type of style and category of midfielder to choose from. Abundance of riches, guys. And that makes me very happy because that oftentimes where games are won and lost, we have the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, that is without question. Four golden boots on a trot, golden gloves on a trot, in a row, three-peat, four-peat. We have the best defense. There's no contesting that. Um, Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba is in the team of the season every season. Um, and so to have and to be able to give players like Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi, because I feel like Martin Zubimendi suffered tremendously last season, being his first season in the league, from playing too many minutes, having no winter break as he's accustomed to in the La Liga, with Real Sociedad. And so, we weren't able to manage him well. And he was suffering. It was obvious that he was burning out. At one point, he even was in tears. So it's very good to see that Miles Lewis Skelly is going to be more present. I feel like that's where he's most suitable and best placed. And that we have players like Bruno Guimaraes, who obviously he's not a like for like replacement for Declan Rice, but he can alleviate some of the minutes from both Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi. All right, guys. So let me know what you think. Who you think we should buy? Leave in the comment section. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Help me to grow the channel. At 45 subscribers right now, help me to get to that 50. And then we move from there. But let me know who you think we should buy. We still need to strengthen that left. And we still need, I mean, to a lesser extent, we need a striker, but we definitely need a player on that left wing. So that is a particular point of concern, and as well the defensive position. So Konsan and maybe a Julian Alvarez, that would allow for something. But I feel like it's so funny because if we signed if we signed Vinicius Junior, then we wouldn't have necessarily needed a striker. But because we didn't get him, we didn't need two players in that forward position, possibly, right? So that shows you the caliber of player that Vinicius Junior is. But guys, okay, so let me know what three players we need. We need a left winger, we need a defender, a central defender, that can deputize on the right, in that right wing back position as well. And we also need possibly a striker. And then if that's the case, then somebody has to go. Most likely it will be um, Gabriel Jesus and maybe even Victor Gyökeres, right? So let us see. All right, guys, hit that like, comment, subscribe button. Let me know who you think we should buy. Let me know what you think about our preseason so far. Let me know what you think the best options for purchase will be. Yeah, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, peace and love, guys, and we're out.